This is the story of something that starts as a tiny trickle, then goes on to become something mighty, spanning across hundreds of miles and affecting millions of people. Imagine going back thousands of years, so far back in time we call it prehistory, before history, and you discover sweet, fresh water rising up from a hole in the ground, all by itself. This is the Blue Hole, and you can walk right up to it and see for yourself in a nature sanctuary in San Antonio at the University of the Incarnate Word. Over time, this trickle of fresh spring water grew into a spring, which grew into a river, providing sustenance for both vegetation and wildlife. Eventually, people began to gather and make their homes and villages along its banks. For many centuries, this was life along the river. In the year 1709, after crossing an arid land, a group of Spanish explorers found themselves in this welcoming oasis inhabited by people called the Payaya. This area was rich in pure, abundant water from this creek which a priest, Padre Antonio de Olivares, christened Agua de San Pedro. He built the first hut of brush and wild grapevines by the river, then offered Mass on the feast day of Saint Anthony de Padua. So the place was named in his honor, San Antonio. He returned on a second expedition in 1718 to found Mission San Antonio de Valero, the Alamo. Over the centuries, a city rose on its banks that went on to become a leading city for the nations of Mexico, the Republic of Texas, and eventually the United States. The city became famous when the Battle of the Alamo took place in 1836 and grew into a modern American city through the 19th century. But the portion of the river running through downtown San Antonio became a neglected eyesore. After a disastrous flood in 1921, there was even talk about paving over their once proud river. That's when, in 1929, with the endorsement of the Conservation Society of San Antonio, Robert H. Hugman had a truly brilliant idea he called the Shops of Aragon and Romula. It was designed to have the charm of ancient cities of Spain while saving the river, making it into a park full of the beauties of nature and helping the economy of the city by attracting visitors with shops, restaurants, and cultural attractions. We know it today, of course, as the Riverwalk. But the river doesn't end in San Antonio. It goes on and on, bringing life and beauty and a habitat for wildlife to the Texas countryside for another 240 miles. Eventually, it joins the Guadalupe River, which eventually flows all the way from those tiny bubbles in San Antonio's Blue Hole across South Texas to first the San Antonio Bay and finally into the Gulf of Mexico. Now you know why the long journey of the San Antonio River is measured not just in miles, but in centuries.